Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by the Adam Meakin, Neil, 10th Man, is that it? Elijah, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Good evening, guys.
Hello.
Happy Thanksgiving 2020.
Happy Thanksgiving
today, guys.
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Apologies then. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. I didn't
Indeed,
I didn't realise it was today.
For those of you
Thank
watching
you.
live in the States, happy Thanksgiving. It's probably early morning for anybody watching over there, but yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you all. Do you know what Thanksgiving's called on in the UK?
Thanksgiving.
No, we call it Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday, that's right.
Thursday.
Call it Thursday. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
Not from Hangouts.
Not from the hanging meat.
No.
Right. In the pre-show, we discussed dropping the current title of Hangouts, which is what we're in. We're in Hangouts, right? This is a Hangout. We're all hanging out, so it's Hangouts, right? It's not meat. From now on, it's not meat. So no more meat puns. I'm sick of them, right? It's just going to be called Google or Hangouts because it's basically the same thing. So let's hear nothing ever again of meat. I don't want to hear that word spoken ever again.
Yeah, meeting up. That doesn't sound that.
Well, Thanksgiving
Titling
here, so
titling things with doing words. It's just I don't like it. Anyway, that's just my personal preference. So the guys in Google. That's what we're going to call the guys in Google because that's where they are. They're in Google, in a meeting in Google.
guys Googling up.
Yeah, they're Googling up together and they're talking to the Discord server. So we've got Google and Discord. I think that's the conclusion we came to at the end of that little complete interruption to the housekeeping. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Not of the Earth-based variety. On the roundabout, maybe.
Nope.
No. Seen stuff spin, but no evidence that the Earth does it.
Well, this is one of those things where it's not happening. Everyone knows they don't feel any kind of motion underneath them while standing on the Earth, but everyone believes that the Earth is spinning. Talk about a head fake.
You know, because we do these hangouts at dinner time. Could that make it a luncheon meat?
Oh, God. I'm not going to get my way, am I?
I didn't do it.
I protested. This is the problem, right?
10.
If you actually object to something, protesting about it too much, this is the result. This is my own fault. I bought this on myself.
Sorry, I'm done.
Okay, Adam, I'm glad you finished it, but it wasn't me this time.
I'm just upset because I didn't think of meeting up.
Okie doke. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
No, not from Nottingham.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Well, it's presupposed molten whatever, because Everything's in the drawing. They have no way of knowing.
It doesn't even sound right.
What about scientific evidence of gravity?
Absolutely none whatsoever.
You get me down with that question?
Boom, boom. What about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Crickets.
That'll be a no.
Any
I've got
evidence?
none.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
This is another slam dunk. Every time they try to say, yes, we can, they have to come in with a container full of gas to prove you can't have gas pressure, that you can have gas pressure without a container. But they came in with a container with gas and then show it in the 3 or 4-sided container with the top open, which is so silly.
I think the clue is
They'll
in the
never
question.
say that because the stakes are too high.
You'll get-
Well,
it's
it wasn't me.
The stakes are too high.
I think that's it.
I'll get us back on track, Nathan, and say that the clue is in the question. Necessary antecedent.
So Flatsoid, when he joins, if he joins, released a video debunking somebody who I'm sure I've seen him before somewhere, but I can't really remember who he is. Nevertheless, a guy making a pot noodle with a kettle and then showing a picture of presumably an Earth curve edge, presumed horizon. I didn't really understand what was being claimed. What I did know was that there was a kettle being boiled, so I asked Flatsoid, does the gas coming out of the kettle go down, go boom boom, like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank?
I saw that video. It was strange. I still don't know what to make of it.
He is south of the equator, though, so does that mean paper goes the other way?
Other than
that, bounces, as far as I was aware, the bouncy ball analogy had gas going downwards, not upwards, as you would observe from a boiling kettle.
well, let's
I
ponder
think
this
we've
for a bit
discussed
then.
this, haven't we? The only vector it can't do, a boiling liquid, is down, because it's precluded from going down by re-emerging back into the liquid. So it's the only vector an escaping water molecule can't have is down, because it re-emerges, but it goes back into liquid state if it goes and follows that vector initially. Obviously, once it then goes off, it can have collisions which will create that, but it's the one vector it can't have upon phase transition.
So Thunderfoot Clown got away with this a couple of days ago because the OBS I used just kept crashing, and then I gave up on the live streams. But right at the point where it crashed was where we discussed this. So as far as I'm aware, Thunderfoot's come out with the assertion and a video demonstration of gas go down, go boom boom like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank, and then subsequently doubled down on it and just reasserted the same thing, and then has presumably moved on. Now, I don't know about you guys, I was pondering this the other day, because his whole shtick is to go out and to show how people are being charlatans, how they're utilising imagination to sell a product. Now, in the case of Thunderfoot, the product he's selling is heliocentrism. In actuality, his religious belief. And he's used a false equivalence to make an analogy that isn't correct. In fact, it stands in complete violation of gas behaviour. Now, to my knowledge, that's a guy who calls out people based on fundy faith and lies and zealotry and deception and charlatanism, being a fundy zealot charlatan deceiving people with nonsense. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that is the current scenario and situation with Thunderfoot Clown.
Yeah, not only him, but all of these, Neil deGrasse Tyson and everybody else who double speaks. All double speakers do what you just said.
Sure, but in his particular example, he's out calling out others for their doublespeak and their false claims made with false examples. That's his shtick. So he's
Right, but
go on.
no, you're right. No, you're right. But that's the same thing as why I equated it to all double speakers is because they have two positions. So his position is my show's about calling other shows and false narratives out, and then he does one. So doublespeak, hypocrite, whatever. It just doesn't hold water. I mean, there's no way the guy could be, saying this is a absolute position I'm taking, and there's no deviation from it. And then he just goes and does the same thing that he calls other people out for.
Yeah, well, precisely. The people who he challenges undoubtedly come back and reassert their claims in the face of his stark evidence that proves them wrong. And in the case of this particular example, the boiling kettle proves him wrong in the case of his assertion that gas go down, go boom, boom like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank, when gas isn't analogous to solid, bonded bouncy balls that will have a downward vector when poured through gas. That would be the air we're breathing. But it just strikes me as the word you struck upon perfectly was hypocritical.
Well, yeah, because they switch from being objective and honest and taking each question about any subject objectively, and they immediately kick into a biased position of defending something they can't give up, the globe. So then they offer a defense for the globe, and it sounds so stupid and silly that they're just like almost blind to it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Rumpus came on yesterday, right? And we were just trying to talk about one thing: Earth rotating underneath an airplane. And he wanted to go into this long, diatribe. I said, Rumpus, just before you do that, does the Earth rotate? Is the Earth turning? And he finally said he did. And then it was over then, because then it's got to rotate under an airplane or anything not attached to it.
Shout out to Unusual, is it Veracity? Welcome to Penguin. But this is something that I feel when a PhD who's using his academic credentials to highlight people's charlatanism should be held to a higher standard than your average Joe Fundy like Rumpus. PhD isn't the same standard as far as I'm concerned. He should be addressing this stuff. Now, a couple of days ago, actually on the same show that crashed, we went through another chap who's a challenger to quote-unquote Professor Dave, or just Dave as we like to call him. Well, he's presenting his evidence with detailed citations and debunking the false claims made by a non-professor. Well, in this case, we've got PhD Thunderfoot Clown asserting abject stupidity to hundreds of thousands of people based on his religious fundamentalist belief in a sky vacuum that stands in violation of the second law of thermodynamics. And as far as I'm concerned, just doubling down on your original fundamentalist assertion, if you're a PhD and held in esteem by the public, you need to address it. You need to do something, and I've obviously not let this go since it first came up. What do you guys think?
I wonder.
I agree.
I wonder with what we were talking about with the Professor Dave stuff, whether it is actually just a reflection of their understanding, and that they've not. Because if I think back to myself 5-6 years ago, I'd have probably made those stupid assumptions because they were the demonstration I was given at some point. Oh, and it looks pretty. But if you're going to enter this arena, for me, particularly as you say, if you do hold that qualification of a PhD and you're going to wave it around, you know what I mean, as you then criticise others, then really you should be held to ridicule for what is a very piss poor demonstration. I mean, supposedly you're supposed to be demonstrating kinetic, elastic collisions, aren't you? Whereas in actual fact, drops those bounce balls, every bit of it's inelastic to the point that they all sit at the bottom of the tank after a second. Do you know what I mean? So it's such a bad example, and frankly, demonstrates the complete opposite of what he's supposed to be demonstrating. That, yeah, if you're going to if you're going to get your guns out, your PhDs, then you deserve. More importantly, if after you've been shown that it is a load of twaddle, you should have the humility to correct it as publicly as you correct other people.
Since his show is about bringing to the public the false claims of others, is he somehow not able to make mistakes and make false claims himself, so that when someone brings him out, he can just say, you know what? Yeah, I'm wrong, but he won't do it. But he's willing to do it to other shows and other topics.
Right, you go to, I'm on it now actually, Thunderfoot's front page, and it's all busted. 500 million Hyperloop Center, busted. You're like, oh, okay, so you're busting people's false claims. Well, Thunderfoot, you've asserted that gas go down, go boom boom like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank. That's incorrect. That needs to be corrected. You've been busted, Thunderfoot, and I want you to address it. You're held to a higher standard. You should be addressing this, especially as it's merely a flat earther, right? Should be easy.
Yeah, looks like we've been going after them. They don't come to the show hardly ever now, but when Dr. Becky puts something out, or some of these other ones, Neil deGrasse Tyson says something, Bill Nye, etc. Now we're calling them out. We're on the offensive, going after them. Not that we never were, because we'd always talk about their latest, YouTube thing or article. Danny Faulkner comes to mind. All these people from different parts of this topic, PhDs, making stupid claims, like the one with Danny Faulkner saying there's a vacuum in the middle of the air where an airplane is. And he's not considering what the wing does in causing high and low pressure. But he says that's like the vacuum in space. That's what he's trying to get you to think. Nonsense.
They've got plenty of measurements of pressure, so having a pressure difference, they try and convince you that that's actually a vacuum, because we equate that to a vacuum. So therefore, if it starts off at a low-level vacuum, there's nothing to stop you assuming that going higher will make it even lower, and eventually be nothing, and then eventually be so powerful a vacuum that you couldn't even recreate it on the surface of Earth with 6-foot walls. But that is assumed to be your sky, because we can measure varying levels of pressure. In other words, they equate vacuum with gas pressure differentials. Okay, that doesn't make the sky a vacuum, because if it was, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Shout out to Guns of Navarone RMP for joining as a lion. Or upgrading to a lion, I should say.
For me, that's another one they use, because they like to use the way it's more vacuous, that area above. But it's another one for me that exemplifies the power that you get with gas pressure, just simply by passing the air over that wing and creating a differential in the two air pressures. It lifts the plane up. That's how powerful these forces are. That's what, nothing's going to stop these gases moving, other than a physical object. Then if you can create a differential that much just by passing the air, it will actually lift the plane. That's how powerful it is. So this supposed force is then stopped by gravity when it reaches a magic line. This to me, like I say, is another good example that you ain't stopping these forces that these gases possess. There ain't no magical boundary where they run out of steam.
And that's a good point. And when you think about an airplane taking off, and say it's at 8,000 feet before it climbs all the way to whatever it's gonna fly out for an hour or two, it's in the air. And now you got a vacuum above the wings, but then you got air above the vacuum. So now how can you have a vacuum in the middle of air? How does that work? It doesn't. It's just a differential.
Right, I've got that on screen by coincidence. So obviously they would consider that the black area is a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. And the gas pressure, in the form of, in this example, nice and visually obvious, a cloud. Well, if you look at the edge, that would be the physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve in this representation. Then you've got high pressure gas next to 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. Now, just by coincidence, I've paused this right at the wrong moment, and you've actually got what looks like the gas filling the space, just by pure coincidence. But yeah, if this black area was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would want to fill it.
It's like Danny Faulkner used the same thing that Thunderfoot did. Thunderfoot went to bouncy balls, which was terrible, to try to prove what he was trying to prove. And Danny Faulkner went to what's above the airplane wing caused by a wing air differential and said that's a vacuum. Another big PhD saying something stupid. I mean, just so stupid, it's ridiculous.
Indeed. But we're dealing with clowns. You know, that's what fundamentalist religious zealotry does to you. If you're in a cult and you're not aware of it, you're going to say stupid things. And it is like being... I was just going to say, it is like being in a cult. You know, the more I assess globe earth fundamentalist religious zealotry, the attributes that the people have who come to defend it are like cult members. They accuse us of it too,
and
occasionally.
they do defend it.
Say again.
Said they do defend it. People in cults defend their cults.
But even people in cults have a source material that they go by. So when you say, what's your source material for saying that? They'll say, you know, if it's religious or whatever, they'll say the Bible. And you say, well, show it to me. It's not there. This in the field of science, natural sciences, whatever. Why do you say that? Well, it's what my textbook showed me when I was getting my PhD. I said, yeah, but is that reality? How does that work? Isn't that a violation of a natural law when you say that? If they don't wake up, then you could be.
Why did you just claim that we say that the vacuum of space is next to a high pressure? It's exactly what we don't say. It's very, very close to very, very low pressure. And that very, very low pressure is close to other very, very low pressure. And you have to go down 60-odd miles before the pressure starts to get to reasonable values, and then you have to go down a bit more to get to the pressure we experience on the surface of the Earth. You don't even understand what the globe model claims, let alone attempt to refute it.
I was talking about the vacuum over an airplane wing. What are you talking about?
He was just, did you not listen to what he was pointing out to the Earth, and he pointed out to a picture of the Earth where he said, here's space, and here's next to the gas pressure, full gas pressure of the atmosphere. Did you miss that? If you've got a memory of a goldfish, I'm happy to talk about airplane wings if you want, but I was referring to what he said, and you've clearly forgotten it.
No, speaking of memories of goldfish, which we'll put aside the ad homs, this isn't the first place I've seen pictures like that. I see it all the time growing up and looking at the textbooks.
Pictures
they have the vacuum of space. And Rumpus, relax. Just relax.
What pictures of what? You haven't told me what pictures you're talking about.
Rumpus, relax. I'm not done talking.
Which pictures are you talking about?
Oh, my gosh. Well, if you would allow other people to speak, maybe they can comment on the question that you should wait to ask until they're done.
What pictures are you talking about? I'm just asking for information about what your point is.
How would you know if you keep interrupting and I can't finish?
Well, you start off saying, I've seen pictures of, I don't know, the Earth next in space. Then you can start with that and then describe it.
Yes,
that's how you start a point.
You're ridiculous.
He can't help himself.
You're just a child.
Oh, my God. No, you're just an idiot. You don't even know how to structure a bloody point.
Okay,
so, for instance, what you're saying is you've seen pictures of the Earth in space, and you're claiming you've seen pictures, presumably, of the atmosphere next to space. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I've got a picture on screen now. Is that a good enough one as an example?
I can't see it. I have to go and start up YouTube.
No worries. While you start up YouTube and have a look at what's on screen, maybe you can clarify verbally. Is the sun claimed to be in 10 to the minus 17 Torr vacuum?
Space is very low. I mean, it varies, but yes, it's almost a vacuum. Yes,
so
space
is the sun claimed in your model to be in 10 to the minus 17 Torr vacuum?
Well, the pressure next to the sun is slightly greater than that because it emits material. So it's not quite sitting it, but yes, the space around it is effectively a vacuum, yes.
Okay, so we've got Rumpus making clear that the sun is claimed to be in 10 to the minus 17 Torr vacuum. Here's a picture of the sun, and here's a picture of high pressure gas. And it's claimed by Rumpus that this area is a vacuum, 10 to the minus 17 Torr, as per the rhetoric of heliocentrism. So we have high pressure gas and a 10 to the minus 17 Torr vacuum, and gas not filling it. Now he's going to say, well, it gradiates to this. All right. Well, this is still claimed to be 10 to the minus 17 torr, and this is definitely high-pressure gas. And according to you, this is a vacuum, and this gas isn't filling it. That violates the second law of thermodynamics. If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill the space.
Forces, Nathan, that pulls you down to the ground. What do you think that's called? What do you think that does? And it does the same thing to air molecules as well.
Oh, does gas go down, go boom boom, like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank, as asserted by Thunderf00t Clown?
What do bouncy balls do when they hit the ground, Nathan?
Is gas like solid, bonded, bouncy balls, as asserted by a PhD clown called Thunderf00t, who asserted, with demonstrations, that gas is like solid, bonded, bouncy balls when poured into a fish tank? My question is gas like solid, bonded, bouncy balls?
Bouncy balls do when they hit the ground.
Is gas like bouncy balls?
Exactly, yes.
No, gas is unbonded. You are stupid, and as a flat earther, I feel it's only right I educate you. Bonded bouncy balls are solids, a completely different state, not the same phase as gas. Gas is unbonded and expands in all directions. Have you never boiled a kettle? The gas is not going down like a solid bonded bouncy ball because that's a solid and behaves like a solid. Gases are unbonded, Rumpus, you are stupid.
Bouncy ball...
Aren't solid, right? You're telling me that they're not solid, they're like gas.
The atoms in a gas and molecules in a gas, it can have atoms and molecules, are
they
solid,
bonded?
just like bouncy balls.
Are they bonded? Are they bonded?
They are solid things. The fact that the ball is made up of little bits of things is irrelevant. We're talking about the behaviour of the ball as a macroscopic thing. We can't see atoms. So to provide you with an analogy you'll understand, we'll say, pretend the whole ball is a solid one thing, just like an atom. That's the analogy we're making. And it behaves. And remember, we're talking about the behaviour. It's the behaviour we're describing we're interested in. We don't care about the contents of an atom. We don't care about it's made up of gluons and protons. And we don't care the ball is made up of atoms. We're talking about the behaviour of the two things.
Two things? What are the two different things that we're talking about? Two things, you say? What are the two things?
I missed that because you overtalked me.
You said two things. So we're talking about solids and gases. Two things, right?
The atoms inside a gas are just as solid as the atoms in a solid.
Oh, I see. You're convoluting between inter and intra-molecular bonds then.
Convoluting means, do you?
You're talking through me when I point out what you're convoluting. You're trying to convolute between intra and intermolecular bonds, right?
I'll say it again, a bouncy ball...
You ignored me! So you're equivocating, and you're just going to ignore me clarifying that by talking through me and ignoring me, right? What a coward! So what Rumpus is doing is he now continually talks through me, because he's not going to listen from this point, he's been pummeled, is he's trying to convolute between inter and intra-molecular bonding. Now, at a fundamental level, intermolecular bonds aren't going to be equivocated between gases and solids. But obviously Rumpus isn't going to listen to a word I'm saying. He's just talked non-stop through every word I've just said, because he's an abject coward and knows that this is the point his argument dies. So he has to constantly talk from this point forward, so he doesn't have to listen to me and therefore address anything I've just said. He won't repeat my pointing out that he's equivocating with inter and intra-molecular bonding. He's not going to acknowledge that ever.
A separate ball is analogous to a separate atom. There are no bonding issues to worry about.
Is that an inter or intra-molecular bond that you're describing?
We don't need to worry about any of...
We don't need to worry about it. It's just my debunking of your point that you're using, so we don't need to worry about it or answer it, right? You utter coward. You're getting pummeled by a flat earther again.
The molecular bonds in a gas.
Are they intra?
A solid.
Are they intra or intermolecular bonds between gases?
Well, an intra is inside the molecule. If you have a single atom, there's nothing for it to be bonded to, so you don't know what you're talking about.
So is a gas feeling the effects of intermolecular bonding or not?
Atoms and molecules in a...
Not listening to me. Clarifying my question. He's just talking through the end of it, ladies and gentlemen, because he knows he's getting pummeled. What a coward. So I'm trying to clarify whether or not gases have got intermolecular bonds or not. And he's just talking through me, so he doesn't have to answer. What a complete bitch.
Bonds in a gas, you twat. There are no intermolecular bonds in a gas. That's what makes
And are there intermolecular bonds in a solid?
you're a liquid.
He's not listening. So we've established that there's no intermolecular bonds in a gas. Thank you very much. So to be comparable, solids have no intermolecular bonds also?
There are no intermolecular bonds in a gas.
And what about a solid? Has a solid got intermolecular bonds to make it comparable to a gas?
There are no intermolecular bonds in a gas.
Yeah, I know. That's what our argument is, yeah? It's not bonded like a bouncy ball that does have intermolecular bonds. But you just seem to be ignoring me because you're a coward getting completely pummeled by a flat earther. And as pointed out, your equivocation between inter and intramolecular bonding at an atomic level. Now, gases don't have any intermolecular bonds, and solids do. So therefore, solid bonded bouncy balls are not analogous to gases.
Because they're separate. The separate atoms in a gas are not bonded to one another, and that
Like bouncy balls are. Bouncy balls are bonded though, aren't they? That's our point. Maybe ignore it.
I missed you over talking.
I know you're stuttering now, bitch. That's right. Bonded bouncy balls though, right? Solids are bonded though, aren't they?
They're not bonded.
Solids? Solids aren't bonded? What holds them together then? You're telling me solids aren't bonded? Wow, another demonstration of Rumpus's abject stupidity. He thinks that solids aren't bonded? What kind of a moron are you? Is it just that you can't listen? You're choosing to talk through me pointing out that solids do have bonds? Like bouncy balls are bonded together, unlike gas.
Saying the behaviour of the whole ball is analogous to the behaviour of a whole atom. The fact that a ball...
Oh, an atom? What, something you're describing with an intramolecular bonding? Well, solids don't have the exact analogous comparison when you say that one atom of gas does have intramolecular bonds, but doesn't have intermolecular bonds, as does a solid, making them incomparable, different states. Gases are unbonded, as admitted by Rumpus, making them a false equivalence when using bonded bouncy balls. PhD Thunderfoot Clown is a moron and doesn't understand this, and has therefore drawn a false comparison. Bonded bouncy balls aren't like unbonded gases. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of fun demuting, ladies and gentlemen, while I'm pointing this out to you. That's why Rumpus's light is continually flashing, so he doesn't have to acknowledge the point that he's been pummeled on. That would be to say that gases are unbonded, and bouncy balls, solids, are bonded. No way he's ever going to accept that, acknowledge it, or in any way defeat it in an argument. But he can talk through it's a Discord, can't he?
Does a ball dropped onto the ground...
Does it have an intermolecular bond, a ball? Because we've established that gases don't. So does the ball have intermolecular bonds?
They don't stay on the ground. That's what atoms...
You're just talking amongst yourself whilst ignoring every word I say, you abject coward. Now the audience knows what's going on. You're getting pummeled. I'm explaining to the audience that you've been annihilated while you ignore me. We're trying to establish if bouncy balls have got intermolecular bonds and you're ignoring me.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, it's just making it comparable because they both don't have intermolecular bonds, solids and gases. They're both the same, really, it doesn't matter, other than it being the point that I annihilate you on, and you hand wave by saying it doesn't matter. Why doesn't it matter that bonded bouncy balls have got intermolecular bonds, and gases don't have the same exact intermolecular bonds? In fact, are unbonded. Precisely my point. Not mattering? Oh, it does matter. It's crucial to my argument that you're talking through, because you know that you've been defeated, so therefore a constant barrage of talking through me and not listening to a single word I say is all you've got to defeat this, Rumpus. You already know, so I don't mind shutting down your line while you do that, so the audience can hear how you've been pummeled. You're equivocating between inter and intramolecular bonds as described immediately when I caught you on this. You just didn't think I was smart enough to realise what you were doing. And now all you can do is fundy mute me the entire time. What a coward. Your time here is done. You've been pummeled. Any last words?
The behavior of the whole ball is analogous to the behavior of a whole atom.
Is it
Oh, no, it isn't, Rumpus. Can I have a minute on that?
Yes, it is.
This is the whole
The behavior of a
reason.
whole ball is...
Please, can you stop repeating it, Rumpus? Adam would like to respond to you, you coward.
Okay.
Maybe we should address that. The point here is the demonstration is supposed to show the bouncy balls acting like a gas molecule, right? Now, the interesting thing about gas behavior is they're free to move in all directions and undergo elastic collisions. When you drop those bouncy balls, Rumpus, do they undergo elastic or inelastic collisions?
A very bouncy ball does do something very close to elastic conditions, and that's why the analogy is
inelastic then, yeah?
Enough. It's good enough.
Yeah, so inelastic, Nathan. It's not good enough, and this is why. So I'll get on to the next point. Because it's inelastic, and because the bouncy ball behavior isn't analogous to gas behavior, if it was, when Thunderfoot Clown dropped the bouncy balls into the container, what would have happened if it was analogous is the bouncy balls would bounce around until entropy took over and the vector paths of the bouncy balls would all leave the container. But they don't do that. They all just plump to the bottom within seconds. Now, if it was analogous to gas, after a short amount of time, you'd see less and less bouncy balls in the container. They would all fly off because it's not sealed at the top. Okay?
Yeah. In other words, if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. It's the second law of thermodynamics. It's very easy to look up. It's very easy to describe. But if you equivocate gas that's unbonded at an intermolecular level with bouncy balls that are bonded at an intermolecular level, you can make gas go down, go boom, boom, when a kettle debunks that.
To talk to you in everyday objects because you're a moron. We have to talk to you.
Now it's just straight into the ad homs, Rumpus. I'm going to have to remove you because you didn't listen to a word Adam said. You spoke through it the whole time. I put my mouse next to you for the audience just to show that you weren't listening. You know and have known for quite a period since you've been here that you've been defeated in this argument. So you're not listening anymore. So you're not really much use to anybody if you're not going to listen to anything anyone replies with and just try and censor it from people's hearing. That's pretty pathetic. But there we go.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Brian. How's it going?
Brian?
Science denier. You don't understand science.
So you're just going to ad homus the whole time, Rumpus, and not listen to a word?
I have a question for Rumpus.
And we haven't even gotten to the Black Swan yet.
If you truly...
Bouncy ball, then would you accept that as being
He's
a
not
correct model
listening.
for the
He's
atom?
just talking constantly. Right? He's not
Are
listening.
you still there, Rumpus?
I've not been
Not
given-
listening.
You've been You've not given me a chance to answer.
See, he's just talked constantly for the last 5 minutes straight and is now saying he's not getting a chance to answer. He's not listening. He's not listening to anything anybody says
You're not
to the point of
listening, no.
defeat.
Well, Rumpus, if you're willing to answer my question, that will put it all to bed.
More than
Are you
happy
there?
to take turns with people. More than happy to take turns, but I don't get a chance to finish my answers.
Okay,
So the
60
bouncy
seconds for
ball
Brian.
analogy
You didn't
is
let
fine.
Okay, Brian,
Not
shush, shush, shush,
perfectly
Discord,
elastic.
G+, hello. Okay, go ahead, Brian. 60 seconds.
Okay, Rumpus claimed that the atmosphere, which is begging the question fallacy, but just by that word alone, gradiates from ground level pressure right up to become a vacuum, eventually becoming a vacuum of space, 10 to the minus 17 torr. So that's the 760 torr at ground level becoming 10 to the minus 17 torr gradually. So now I would like Rumpus to provide me and everyone else on the panel with a physical demonstration of a gas pressure gradient being created within a vacuum chamber without solid containment between the gases and the vacuum. As that would prove
Thing is,
his point.
right, but the trouble
Either-
is you need gravity, because gravity is a very special force. It acts on each thing individually, like
That
little
is the end of
springs
that.
acting on all the molecules. And if you understood about potential energy and kinetic energy, you do require the gas molecules running around the atmosphere, running about 500 meters per second. And they will, if you were to throw,
not
if
for
you,
an explanation. I asked you, can
okay,
you
I'm trying to
provide
give you
a
an answer.
demonstration,
You're interrupting
not
me.
explanation?
Brian, I'm trying to answer here.
He asked for a demonstration, though. He didn't ask for an answer. He asked for a demonstration.
Brian, Brian, if I were to throw a ball up at 500 meters per second directly upwards, how far do you think it would go? I'll tell you what, I'll answer the question for you.
Why?
I
Why are
don't
you
care.
answering your own question? What a scumbag. So the first thing we need to establish, Rumpus, while you
Because
talk
I'm
through everybody, I
explaining-
thought you just asked a question. You're not willing to get an answer? So the first thing I'd like to establish with you, Rumpus, is does this ball, like a gas, have intermolecular bonds?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, right. It's only the definition of the destruction of your argument.
Not irrelevant. We're talking.
Not relevant, other than gas is unbonded and the bouncy ball in your analogy is bonded. It's just the defeat of your argument. It's not that it's not relevant. It's where you get pummeled. But you don't have to like it. I don't mind. That's okay. The audience knows you're an abject coward, and hand-waving it by saying it doesn't matter when I've tried to point it out and you've talked through it every time just shows how badly you've lost here, Rumpus.
It just goes to show you have no argument. That's why you have to.
No argument? You've just told me my argument doesn't matter. I ask if, like gas, this ball in your analogy has intermolecular bonds or not, and your answer is, it doesn't matter. Well, can you tell us if it does or doesn't, rather than telling us it doesn't matter? Do you not know? Are you stupid? Don't you know the answer? Because saying it doesn't matter isn't saying you do or don't know or giving the right answer. It's showing your stupidity, Rumpus. And throwing your dummy out of the pram, talking constantly, that doesn't change the fact that I don't know isn't crossing your lips. It doesn't matter. Just shows you're stupid.
Claims to be a debate channel, and he's not interested.
Well, I've asked a question. You've said it doesn't matter. You haven't said I don't know. You haven't given the right answer. You've said it doesn't matter. That makes you stupid.
He's frightened the debate. You see, he will not.
Yeah, the debate has reached a point where I ask you if the ball in your example has intermolecular bonds like gas doesn't, and you say it doesn't matter. That's not I don't know.
5 words I got out there before I was interrupted. Must be 4, possibly 5 words. And I'll say it again.
Well, you can suck my balls. I've got my answer, and your answer is it doesn't matter.
Sentence. I can't finish a sentence, can I?
Now it's just constant fundy tactics with I can't finish a sentence. Your answer to my question, does the ball have intermolecular bonds like a gas doesn't have? And you say doesn't matter. That's not an answer.
You can't cope with the debate at all here. 5
This
words.
is a debate. You just don't have an answer to my question. You said it doesn't matter. That's not an answer. That doesn't show you know or understand or don't understand. It's a hand-wave dismissal.
What his idea of debate is. One where he mutes other people. That's his idea of a debate. So,
Sorry, your tactics aren't going over, scumbag Fundy. I've asked you if a ball in your example has intermolecular bonds, and your reply is it doesn't matter.
you can all see this. You can all see this. Can you see this? I cannot finish the sentence. Right, so we're talking about the behaviour being analogous. It doesn't matter the constituents of a ball. We're talking about the behaviour of a ball.
Do the constituents affect the behaviour of a ball? Adam Meakin, can you answer this for me, please?
Well, yes. I think the last
What's
time
question?
I was
What's
talking,
the question?
Rumpus, you talked through me, so maybe I could explain it again for you.
No, you talk
trying
to me.
to-
You wouldn't let
Oh, Rumpus won't give you more than 5 words. He's a coward. Fundy being absolutely annihilated, so he won't give you more than 5 words. Do you see what's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Rumpus won't allow his opponent to talk.
He denied. He didn't let me finish.
You're denying that this fundamental property of gases and solids has an effect on their behaviour. You've said it doesn't, and we've got somebody who's an expert to answer, and you won't let him because you're being
Go on,
pummeled.
then. You interrupted me, but nonetheless.
No, you interrupted Adam. Cowardly interrupted the expert. Yeah,
he's
Adam.
not an expert.
Yeah,
is he?
Rumpus. Right. So you're trying to say that the behaviour of the ball is analogous to the behaviour of a gas molecule. And I
Yeah.
think this is the point, that it's fundamentally not. Is a gas molecule's collision elastic or inelastic?
Right, and here we go. Now, you interrupted my answer, so you never heard my answer to that. We can think, if
But
you want, in a model that it's perfectly elastic.
Oh, sorry, I don't want to think about anything in a model. We're talking about in reality, you dumbo. Don't immediately reify models and mathematics. He's asked you a physical question about physical reality, you dumbo.
And Nathan couldn't hold it in. He didn't like me exposing him as an idiot.
No, I exposed that you are now going to a reification of a model.
I can't give my answer, can I? I can't give my answer.
We don't want a model-based answer. Adam's asking about reality. Dropping a ball isn't what a ball drops in a model.
Interested in an answer.
Yeah, we heard that you're going to talk about a model, and we're not interested. Is your question based in abstract maths and models or reality, Adam?
Not being allowed to give an answer.
I'm asking for clarity about whether or not the answer required is abstract or physical, Grumpus, but you're not letting that clarity come because you know that you need to use an abstract model.
He can only interrupt. He's not interested.
Yeah, he's choosing to use fundy tactics. I'm trying to gain clarity from Adam about his question. Rumpus won't allow it. He knows he's getting beaten.
But you'll all see this, people. This is from the scared Oakley, Nathan Oakley.
Yeah, another ad hom. Trying to gain clarity from Adam about whether or not we need an answer in the abstract or in the physical, but you're not allowing it.
You cannot debate. So a bouncy ball is close.
No, you're not allowing Adam to give clarity. You're just going to keep rambling on with your own rhetoric. Adam, is your question in regards to fundamentalist abstract models or about reality?
Well, no, talk about the reality of gas behaviour.
Reality, not model-based abstractions then.
No,
so go on, Adam.
We're
Try
talking
and
about
think
reality,
of a perfectly elastic bouncy ball, and then it's very analogous. Think of a slightly improved bouncy ball, and then you're there.
Yeah, but that's not what the model had, did it? So this is my point, Rumpus.
No,
so
the model
he's not allowing it, ladies and gentlemen. Abject coward. Abject coward. Adam was talking. Can't allow it. Abject coward.
The model has perfectly elastic balls. The model does. The model is perfectly elastic.
Oh, we've just explained we're not interested in your abstract model. Shut up. Go ahead, Adam.
Represents reality.
Oh, you're not going to let Adam. You're obviously scared of the expert. Yeah, I get it. Coward.
Can't see the answer, Nathan, so
you're not letting the expert speak. You're just talking through him. Coward. Go ahead, Adam. Fifth time.
In your abstract model, Rumpus, would the bouncy balls stay in the opened container, i.e., would their behaviour be analogous to the real bouncy balls in real life, or would it not?
Force called gravity that acts on you and acts on the balls.
Just
and so
rambled
it
through
models
that,
exactly, and the balls would not leave an empty container if they've got the force of gravity acting on them, just like you can't jump up into the air.
Your abstract model wouldn't match Thunderfoot's clown's demonstration.
I was only 5 seconds of finishing there, and you felt you had to interrupt. So just like
you
can't jump up and leave...
Your abstract maths, would it match Thunderfoot's clown's demonstration?
Atoms or molecules of a gas leave the atmosphere, leave the Earth, either because there's a force of gravity pulling them down.
In your abstract model, would the bouncy balls remain at the bottom of the container in your abstract model of elastic collision?
Because they bounce just like bouncy balls bounce. They bounce up again.
Did Thunderfoot clowns bouncy balls bounce up again and leave the container eventually because of entropy?
I can't remember what his demonstration did, but obviously,
do you think his bouncy balls?
Oh, I'll remind you. No worries, Adam. I'll just remind him. What he did was he poured bouncy balls into a fish tank, and they went down. Go boom boom, because they were solid, bonded.
Yeah, but that's
bouncy balls.
That's because they're not perfectly elastic in those situations.
So, was his example then analogous to gas behaviour, Rumpus?
It's close enough. It's a good enough start.
That'd be a no then, wouldn't it?
That'd be a no then. So close enough. It's not analogous because gas has elastic collisions. Does gas not have elastic collisions? Do you not understand gas behaviour?
The bouncy ball has subject to friction. It's not perfectly elastic, so it's not.
It's not. Is gas perfectly elastic in its collision state?
Close enough. It's close enough for people like you to understand.
Oh, it's close enough for us flat earthers. No, but we understand that gas has elastic collisions and the bouncy balls don't.
Another question, Rumpus. Do bouncy balls, are bouncy balls subject to density disequilibrium and are gas molecules?
Oh, he won't allow the question. He's not allowing it, Adam. He's not allowing it.
Well, you answer my question first, Nathan, and then I'll...
No, you can suck on my nuts. That's what you can do. Adam was trying to ask you a question. Maybe quickly assert the authority, take control, ask a question. Adam was asking you something. You just interrupted it. Can you not tolerate? Are you scared of Adam's question? Go ahead, Adam. Oh, great. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay, so gas molecules aren't subject to any density disequilibrium effects. They are the medium, aren't they? Whereas this bouncy ball is a denser object acting in the medium of air, isn't it? So is that subject to density disequilibrium, the bouncy ball?
The question wasn't being tolerated. The prerequisite got allowed, but the question wasn't. He immediately interrupted and you As he knew you were going to be taking control of the situation by asking him a question, so he had to interrupt it like a coward.
Put the bouncy balls in a vacuum.
Yeah, no, we're not hearing your question. We were hoping for Adam's question that you had to interrupt so the question didn't come. Because then you might have to answer it, right, Rumpus?
The bouncy balls in a vacuum.
No, we're not listening to your constant fundy muting anymore. We're pointing out that you interrupted the actual question.
Answering his question.
No, he didn't get to ask it. You interrupted it.
You're not changing the question either. You're asking me if I make the density disequilibrium even more severe, will it change the results? No, it won't. Rumpus, so carry on.
Oh, he did it again. As soon as the question came, he started talking through it because he knew that he might have to answer. Maybe you can answer for him, like he thought he was going to get away with doing.
Still trying to answer his question. You could put the bouncy balls in a vacuum, and then you wouldn't have the problem you're describing.
As I just said, by making the density disequilibrium even more severe, why would you think that?
Why would I
You've
think
taken any structural support with air pressure, haven't you? To impede
what
the flow of the ball.
You've no idea about what you're talking about. You've no idea about gas.
That's just an ad hominem attack. That's called a logical fallacy, ladies and gentlemen. So when you can't address a question, just tell your opponent that they don't know what they're talking about. Make out they're stupid. It's called an ad hominem fallacy.
No, it's not. That's when you have a substitute from. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Rumpus, you're the one that took the point into a vacuum for no reason.
Yeah.
That made no point. I was just
made no point.
that your removal of the situation into a fantasy zone, which doesn't occur in nature, didn't help your point either. It doesn't address the point I was making.
Well, you didn't have a point.
Right, another ad hom.
You don't listen,
it seems whenever we make a point that he actually listens to, he has to tell us that it's a non sequitur. So, for example, do we have intermolecular bonds in gases and solids to make them analogous? Well, it doesn't matter. Right? Well, it does matter. It's the demolition of his argument.
If the bouncy balls were perfectly elastic, and you put them in a vacuum, and there was no force of friction, and they were perfectly elastic, then you would have a very good analogy for gas bonds. But we all, I think,
Rumpus, you just don't understand, Rumpus.
Is that the balls are not perfectly elastic, so there's a limit to how close the analogy is. But it's good enough to get an idea about what's going on, because we know that when you drop a bouncy ball, it bounces up.
All
not
the balls
quite as
ended
high
up
as
at the
it came
bottom
from,
of the
but
container.
very nearly high.
They didn't
And that's
bounce
what the
around.
gas molecule
If
does.
you
So
added
when you
heat,
claim
they
that all
wouldn't.
the gas will form at the bottom, it doesn't. It bounces up just like bouncy balls bounce off the bottom on the ground, and they bounce up to a very similar height to where they came from. Go ahead.
Oh, so gas always behaves like these bouncy balls, and you're saying the bouncy balls always bounce up and out of the tank? Well, no, that's not what gas does. Gas expands. Oh, he's a coward. He's got to interrupt. That's not what gas does.
Okay.
Oh, he's going to keep interrupting. He's just knows he's pummeled. That's not analogous to gas behaviour, because gas expands in all directions rapidly at high speed. It doesn't pour down and bounce like bouncy balls. They're bonded solids.
The balls, as we
Roberts, how do you have...
Please, Brian, you're not helping.
Sorry.
It doesn't matter what the ball's up. We're making an analogy between the behavior of the whole ball. Doesn't matter what it's made of. We're talking about the behavior of the whole ball is analogous to the behavior of an atom. Now, it's not quite right, and Adam is correct to talk about the elasticity issue. And indeed, those balls are obviously not perfectly elastic because only atoms are perfectly elastic. And so if you were to drop a bouncy ball into a glass container, it would bounce out again if it was perfectly elastic, and it would still do it if it was quite elastic. Depends on where you drop it from. But if you have lots of them, you can have sort of random collisions, which would cause balls to eject out of the container. If they had lots of bouncy balls and they were frictionless and they were perfectly elastic, and you drop them all in and drop them, say, from 5-10 feet in a 10-foot container, eventually they would bounce around in there because they bounce up just as quickly as they bounce down. That's what bouncy balls and elastic things do. Then eventually you would get them coming out the top. Eventually, few of them would, because the random collisions would come together and cause one ball, say the odd ball, to acquire a velocity sufficiently great that it can actually go out of the container. And then it would then pour energy or whatever from around it.
So,
and then that's
I understand. Thank you. Can I respond or not?
Go.
So you're saying eventually, if it was analogous to elastic collisions, then the gas would fill the space then?
But they only get to a certain height. If there was a gravitational force, which obviously there is on the Earth, it would have...
You didn't describe anything about gravity. You just described them all bouncing out of the tank, filling the space, right?
Yes, well, okay. Well,
so the gas would fill the space. That's interesting. So this description you've just given us has gas.
Gravity, yes.
You're going to interrupt me? I gave you a solid 2 minutes. My God, what a coward. So you've just given us an example.
If there were no gravity...
Are you not going to let me? What a coward!
Go ahead.
So your example has gas with elastic collisions, albeit with you describing them as bouncy balls, filling the space in line with a description called the second law of thermodynamics. So eventually they'd all bounce out. He's not going to let me. So you've described gas expanding. He's never going to let me. Ladies and gentlemen, the globe's dead. Space is fake. Rumpus knows it, and he's not going to let me respond. He's a coward. He doesn't understand science. All he's got is this. This is all you got. You're not allowing me to respond. He's not letting me describe the fact that he's described what we describe now. We've taken him round in a full circle, but I've stopped him at the point that he's describing gas, analogous with bouncy balls according to him, having elastic collisions and bouncing out and filling the space.
No, I didn't say that, did I?
Yeah, you did. That's exactly what you described. The problem is that you forgot to introduce your fundamentalist religious zealot belief in gravity. I stopped you before you did it, and at that point you had them behaving like gas with elastic collisions, bouncing out!
Okay, perhaps it wasn't like it was a stupid...
You stuttering bitch! How do my balls taste?
Say that was a lie.
A lie? You described elastic collisions. It didn't matter that you said it was analogous to bouncy balls at that point. You just forgot to introduce gravity, and you had them bouncing out of the tank.
Here we go. It wouldn't fill the space. So, for instance...
It wouldn't? No, that's a violation of entropy law. You don't understand second law of thermodynamics. You're stupid. You're stupid. Not listening. Stupid. Idiot. Not listening. That violates second law of thermodynamics. You are a moron.
Not fill the space. They would...
No, not fill the space is a violation of natural law, dickhead.
No such thing as natural law.
Second law of thermodynamics. Entropy increase. Look it up. It's proportional to time and described quite admirably by you earlier when you described these balls in a hypothetical chamber all bouncing out of it.
They're still subject to gravity. Nathan...
Oh, I see. So after the fact, when I pointed out that your analogy had them all bouncing out, you're now going to say that if I introduce gravity, the elastic collisions I described with them all bouncing out doesn't happen anymore, right?
Okay, there would still be the odd ball that would bounce out due to random collisions causing one ball to acquire more velocity than would be required to go out of the container. That's not the same as it filling the space. That's just the odd one creeping out and then having to return when get a little bit higher than the top of the container, and then it would fall back in due to gravity because there's a force acting on them, Nathan, just like there's a force bonding a brick together, and that's why that's not subject. Well, you could ask yourself, why doesn't a brick be subject to entropy and then disappear off into space?
Okay, I'll ask. Can I ask? So does a brick have intermolecular bonds holding it together?
It does. And
does a gas have intermolecular bonds holding it together? I believe you told us on 6 separate occasions through me that gas doesn't have intermolecular bonds, but that wasn't important.
And what do you think those intermolecular...
Maybe ask me a question. So a brick, and when I ask you why it's not flying apart, it's because of intermolecular bonding.
And what do you think? Yes. And
new question and a bit of a stutter. So the brick's got intermolecular bonds. Does gas?
Nathan, those bonds apply a force between the components of the brick molecule.
And what about between the gases? Do they have intermolecular bonds?
There is a force holding the gas molecules to the Earth in the same way.
And is it an intermolecular bonding force like the brick?
Does entropy?
It's not answering, you see. So we've got a brick and we've established that that does have intermolecular bonds and that's the force holding it together. And the gas doesn't have that force, but you're going to call it gravity after explaining that the gas with elastic collisions would fill the space.
And a brick are like the forces of gravity acting...
Oh, like the forces of gravity. So you're saying gravity's like intermolecular bonds?
Well, it implies a force to the gas molecules, just like the intermolecular bonds in a brick hold the brick together.
And there's the same intermolecular bonding force in gas, right?
No, there's not.
Oh, right, so they're not analogous then. So when we point out that PhD moron clown show Thunderfoot says that gas behaves like bonded bouncy balls with intermolecular bonds, a force holding them together, behaves the same as unbonded gases that expand in all directions to fill the space with elastic collisions. You're saying these two aren't the same, they're not analogous, right? Yeah, we know. Earlier, though, you said it wasn't important, and now your argument involves a brick with forces holding it together at the intermolecular level. Wow, it's so strange that this wasn't important 10 minutes ago, and now it's part of your argument with a brick.
In the atmosphere and the Earth, just like there are forces between the atoms in a brick.
No, gases don't have intermolecular forces between them, you stupid idiot.
There are not.
There are a stuttering bunch of bitches here. One of them's Thunderfoot Clown and one of them's you. Because no, gases do not have intermolecular bonding forces like a brick. And yet again, a flat earther's got to correct your dumbass.
Do you think there's a force at...
Don't ask me something. Taste my salt.
Yes, if it's anywhere...
Stutter for me. That's right. Your brick has got intermolecular bonding forces you said weren't important earlier.
Same force is...
No, it's not. Gases don't have this same force, you stupid dick. Are you thick?
The same force is acting on...
No, gases don't have intermolecular bond forces, moron.
Effectively, the atmosphere...
Effectively, no, they don't have them. You're stupid.
...is being held onto the scales of the Earth's surface.
Oh, the scales of Earth's surface is like intermolecular bonding?
The same force is acting on the atmosphere.
Oh, no, you said that the bonding's the same as the bonding between the intermolecular bonds of the brick, and gases don't have them.
They're just... Yes, but that's because I was making an analogy between the...
Oh, an analogy that's not got intermolecular bonding you said wasn't important earlier. Yes, we know.
You see, you had to interrupt me, didn't you?
What, by pointing out that the unimportant intermolecular bonds that were hand-waved earlier are now critical to your argument when you analogize between the forces the brick has, that would be intermolecular forces that were unimportant earlier, and gravity, that would fly in the face of your description of gases filling the space when bouncing with elastic collisions. But of course, that's me interrupting as opposed to summarising the absolute annihilation of your argument. Because gases don't have intermolecular bonding forces like bricks. And I'm more than happy as a flat earther to point out to you and the clown show known as Thunderfoot that gases aren't like bricks or bonded bouncy balls, because they're subject to intermolecular bonding forces. Now, gases don't have them. As much as you'd like to inject your fundamentalist religious belief in gravity and equivocate between the bonded forces that are on an intermolecular level and your zealot belief in gravity. Well, bad luck, clown show. Thunderfoot's going to have to be held to task, and you're not going to defend him as your greasy lawyering didn't help Dan. It's not going to help Thunderfoot. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive thank you to today's Google and Discord panel for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.